Hey guys, welcome to day 22 of the Devote Series. Today's scripture portion comes from Mark chapter 7, verses 24 through 30. As we begin, let's cover a little bit of background. In this reading, Jesus had just arrived in a region called Tyre, and he wanted to keep his presence as secret as possible so he could get some rest. Keep in mind that previously, in chapter 6, he had just fed the multitude, walked on water, and healed the sick. Upon entering a house, a woman immediately approached Jesus and fell at his feet. So let's take a step back. The biggest thing to note is the fact that this woman was a Gentile, and Gentiles were despised by Jews. Additionally, according to Jewish religious tradition, it was a violation for a woman to approach a Jewish rabbi and make a request of him. So all in all, it was a situation that we would refer to nowadays as being cringeworthy. As we keep reading, we find that the woman falls at Jesus' feet for a reason. She is begging Jesus to cast a demon out of her daughter. Now, the next part gets really interesting, and this is probably the hardest part to understand when analyzing this passage. Jesus responds to the woman's begging by saying, "Let the children be fed first, for it is not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." When I first read that line, I had to do a double take and ask myself, why are we talking about dogs all of a sudden? It almost seems out of context for the unsuspecting reader. To understand this, we have to go back to the woman's background and remember that the woman was a Gentile. During this time period, when dogs were referenced, they weren't referring to the house pets that immediately come to mind when we think about dogs during the present day. Instead, they're referring to wild, dangerous animals who roam the streets and were considered lowly. Jesus' response alludes to the disparity between Jews and Gentiles, and it is important to note that he was not, by any means, recognizing the description as accurate. We could almost assume that a wink emoji would be an accurate and appropriate addition to Jesus' shocking yet witty response to the woman's request. The woman, however, had an equally shocking and witty response by saying, "Yes, Lord, yet even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs." This is how we are assured that Jesus' tone in the first response was most likely not negative. While it may be one of those situations where you had to have been there to understand, we are able to see Jesus' initial response wasn't out of hatred, but instead it was one that Jesus delivered in alignment with Scripture, promising that salvation is offered to the Jew first and then the Gentile, or the children eating first and the dogs only eating after. So, when this woman says, "Yes, Lord, yet even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs," she's essentially saying, "Yes, Jesus, I am a dog and an outsider, but I'm not one of those dogs who roam and scavenge. Instead, I am like one of those dogs who patiently waits at the children's table waiting for the crumbs to fall." With this response, we not only see humility, but we see faith as well. She believes that even the smallest morsel of food would be sufficient for her needs, and in this case, that need is to have her daughter healed, because God is merciful, and he has demonstrated this mercy to Gentiles previously. Jesus, pleased by her response, says to her, "For this statement, you may go your way. The demon has left your daughter." Tests of faith come our way more often than we think. When the sin in our hearts and worldly influence take hold of us, it is easy to become hopeless. Instead of becoming hopeless, we should take notes from this woman in the passage and have faith. Despite the ethnic disparity that existed between the two, she had enough faith to supersede any barriers, and God passionately responded. As we continue our journey as Christians this Lent season, I ask that you guys seek God in prayers of faith and take comfort in knowing that in doing so, you are drawing yourself closer to Him.